Для усіх єдину наш гордий клич, народові несе, вітчизні будь, ти вірний без зупину, нам Україна вище понад все. Вітчизні будь, ти вірний без зупину, нам Україна вище понад все. Слава для нас закон, найвищий то наказ, соборна українська є держава, одна навік, вітчизну поправ раз. Соборна українська є держава, одна навік, вітчизну поправ раз.
Hello everyone, it is the Enforcer, and tonight I will be bringing you the news for the 4th day of combat in the country of Ukraine. So far today, the mayor of Kyiv has declared siege. He has said and claimed that the Russians surround the city on all sides, and therefore the Battle of Kyiv is over and the siege of Kyiv has now begun. In good news today, it appears that there have been some major developments in the Kyiv area that may be to the Ukrainians' advantage. Here, near the Hostomel airport, some AA units have been destroyed near Kyiv. Pictures to show that the AA units have been destroyed.
А як тільки починаєш... А, типу ближче, так починають оборону держати, я понял. Стреляют или в воздух, или хуя, ну с автомата хуярят. Да они что-то... Ой, ебал, ты разорвало. Я начал подходить, так начали стрелять. Денис в Киеве, да? Денис в Киеве. Сказали...
This is a great advantage to the Ukrainians because this will allow them to achieve better air supremacy over the area of Kyiv, although neither side has claimed air supremacy over the entire country, and the airspace is still contested by both sides. Sorry for the mess up there. Up at Hostomel today, we've had Ukrainians at work. It appears that 2 Mi-8s are engaging forces near the Hostomel airport, and I'll also be bringing some more unfortunate news from that area in a second.
Бери, пошли за автоматом, пошли на войну, не надо. Что ты за хуйня? Есть, вот!
As you can see, the Ukrainians are still fighting over the airport of Hostomel, but sadly, some rather unfortunate news has come out of the Hostomel, or otherwise known as the Antonov airport. The Antonov airport has been famous as the basing station of the Antonov Tu-25 aircraft called the Miria, which means dream in Ukrainian. Today, the Ukrainian government was able to confirm that the only example of that aircraft of its kind in the entire world has been destroyed at the airport today by Russian forces. It is a tragedy, but I believe that the human loss at this point is more of a tragedy than the loss of the aircraft, although no one is really sure if there will ever be a replacement for the Antonov Tu-25, or if that example will be restored in some way and maybe parts of it will be sent to a museum. At this point, the Ukrainian government has more pressing concerns, and I'm sure that more information will be coming out in the following weeks after this war has been concluded. In other news, there's been large fighting around the village and city of Bucha and Irpin. As here can be seen, VDV forces have been moving through the city. I'll show y'all that video right now so that way y'all can see that these troops seem to be a little bit more organized than the other troops we've seen fighting in Ukraine so far. and it suggests a greater degree of training. I'll cut that video short because it's nothing more than troop movements, but you can see that the VDV is in the area of Bucha, which is a major development, as that appears to suggest that there have been more VDV troops landed at the Hostomel airport by the Russians, although that cannot be confirmed, and I would highly doubt that statement, considering that the Ukrainian Mi-8s appear to attack the airport unopposed. So take that with a grain of salt. Down here, it appears that there was a building hit in Bucha, which is a very interesting development as well. It shows that once again, the Russians are beginning to target civilian facilities, such as apartment blocks. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're thinking about these Russian soldiers, because I don't like to weigh in my personal life on the news I'm putting up on this channel a lot, but my mom is always trying to talk about, oh, these poor Russian soldiers, they don't want to really be there, and they're just kind of doing what they're told. But when you see that the Russians are actively hitting apartment blocks with people who may be inside and killing them, I don't really think you can look at them as a sympathetic group of people. So just putting that out there, more civilian casualties are to be expected in the area of Bucha. Down here, the Bucha-Irpin Bridge has been destroyed by the Ukrainians. It appears to be in an attempt to slow the Russian advance, or at least Russian reinforcements to the area of Kyiv, which we will actually move on to the actual city of Kyiv here soon. But here is pictures of the smoke column that came from the explosions near the bridge, which have summarily destroyed it. Now we'll move on to the center of Kyiv, where there have been some developments today, although I have not seen a lot of footage come out of Kyiv. So the actual discussion of what has happened in Kyiv is going to be short, and I'll try and talk a little bit about what I think will happen very soon in Kyiv. So for one, the mayor of Kyiv, I've already covered this recently, but the mayor of Kyiv has declared that a siege has begun on the city, and for that reason, considering that a siege means that the city is surrounded on all sides, I had to redraw the Russian front line drastically over the course of today, because it appears that the Russians have managed to do a few things. Either they have actually surrounded the city of Chernihiv and they've declared a siege, although the Ukrainians have not confirmed that, and if the city of Chernihiv was sieged, the defenders of Chernihiv would be in a very bad position, but at the moment it appears they are not. So I'm not really believing that. What I believe is more plausible is that the Russians have pushed the defenders of Chernihiv far enough back that they have a safe area to operate vehicles down the P-69, nice, and the P-56. And so I believe that that's what they've done, and they've begun to move troops down the P-69 towards the city of Kyiv. That's why I believe has happened, but that is merely speculation due to the fog of war. They may actually besiege the city, or something else has happened that has led Russian troops to be on the eastern side of the city as well. So I'll try and keep apprised of that situation and notify you all if there's been any major changes within the coming days. Another interesting development in the city of Kyiv is that the Ukrainians have actually pushed back the Russians in some parts of the eastern side of the city, but unfortunately I couldn't show you all that video because it had a lot of dead Russian bodies in it. That's great news, though, that there's a lot of dead Russian bodies in that video, but it's not good news for the channel because I can't actually show you the level of destruction and damage that has been caused in the eastern side of the city due to the fighting. I hope that the people on the eastern side are very safe and well taken care of, because it appears that the fighting will start becoming fierce on that side of the city. Also, there was an explosion and fire in the Troshinka, let me make sure I pronounce that right, Troshinya area of the city. No one knows what it's from, and I've been trying to figure out what it has been from all day long, but no one's been able to confirm what it is. All we have is a video of the smoke plume coming up in between the high-rises. If any information comes out on this plume of smoke and what it's from, I'll make sure to let y'all know and update this map with more relevant information. Also, before I move on to the area of Chernihiv, since we've covered all the developments in the Kyiv area today, I would like to say that I will be probably trying to upload this map to a public area for people to look at, along with the links and everything. And for this reason, I have decided to start color coding the days. Everything that happened in the first 2 days of the war is a green pen. Everything that's happened in the 3rd day of the war is yellow, and everything that's happened on the 4th day is red. And so from each day on, tomorrow, day 5, will be a different color, so that way you can kind of follow the developments in fighting as it went. Although my markers were not accurate or even placed during the 1st and 2nd days, and that's why they've been meshed into one single color, is because the markers were very sparse and didn't cover a lot of information. Now we'll be moving on to the city of Chernihiv. There's been a couple of major developments in the city of Chernihiv. I'd like to point out probably the best one yet, which appears that the cops smelled some marijuana coming from some Russian tanks and pulled them over and arrested the crew. I don't really know how that worked, but the story is that the cops pulled over some Russian tanks, the Russian tankers surrendered, and then the villagers just got the tanks. And I'll show you all the captured tanks in a minute, because I believe I do have pictures of them. So as you can see, the tanks have been pulled over by the police.
Танки їдуть заднім ходом. Карюківська громада не пустила їх в місто Карюків. Людей
So it's a very interesting thing. I didn't actually know that the Russians would recognize Ukrainian police as an authority greater than the military, but apparently they have. So I find that to be something interesting for the Ukrainian police to know, wink wink, nudge nudge, that maybe in the occupied areas of Russia, they may want to just start pulling over, Russian units and start arresting them en masse. Something else, some more interesting developments. We have seen more destroyed Russians near the city of Chernihiv. Here in this video, we can see that there are more destroyed Russian vehicles along the roads leading to Chernihiv.
Так, хорошо. Так.
It appears that it was mostly logistical equipment, some kind of KAMAZ trucks, and they're very soft targets, so they're very easy to wipe out. But the very important thing about logistical convoys is that for the larger part, they're more important than the actual armor and infantry convoys that have been destroyed, because without supplies and equipment, the other groups of convoys that are made up of actual combatants cannot function on the battlefield. So I feel like it's actually a more important thing to destroy the logistical elements of an army, more so than the actual fighting elements of the army. So I believe I have pictures of the captured tanks. Well, actually, I don't think I do. That's unfortunate. But I still have pictures of them, and sadly, I don't think I put down a marker here to show the pictures of the tanks after they've been captured. But we do have another APC that was towed away by a Ukrainian civilian, I believe, or this was a different part of the front. No, this is a Russian tractor that's pulling a broken down APC from the Russian side. There is another tank, though, that was actually dragged away by a civilian with a tractor today on another part of the front, and I'll have to get around to showing all that in a bit. But it was hilarious. I have to tell y'all that. So moving on into the city, we actually have a thermal heat map of Chernihiv, which shows the areas of the city that have had a lot of heat activity, thermal activity in them, which suggests that there is a lot of armor present in these areas. So I'm going to click this and let y'all get the big image of this. As we can see, it appears that there is a group of armor here to the south of the city. Whether that is Ukrainian or Russian depends on whether the information that the city is under siege or not is true. It also appears that the Russians are having a large confrontation on the eastern side, northeastern area of the city. It appears that they've gone for the more sparsely populated area, because the lack of roads suggests that there's not a lot of built-up areas in that part of the city. So they may be going there to try and have a bit of a bubble in between them and the Ukrainian defenders, so that way they can try and pick them off from afar instead of getting in the streets where the Ukrainians could be hiding inside of the buildings. At least that's what I'm getting from this. That's nothing but pure speculation, and I want you to be very clear that if I'm saying anything like that, it's not true. It may not be true. I'm just saying what I'm assuming. So far, that's been right, but that means by no reason that you should believe everything I say. That's speculation. Do not. So moving back onto the map, we can see that there has been a large amount of destruction in Chernihiv. We'll be looking at the Shortsa Cinema. I'm sorry if I'm getting tongue twisted. At the middle of the city. As you can see, it's been nearly leveled, and I'll just let the video speak for itself.
Только что. Стреляли, наверное. Второй раз.
As you can see, a large deal of destruction. I'm not sure if it's just down to that one cinema, but it does appear that some of the other buildings have knocked out windows and such, but the destruction is not as bad in the other buildings as it is in that cinema, but nonetheless, it's very destructive damage. Also, there have been some videos of house clearing. I'll show you all that. No gore involved, just a lot of gunshots. They're muffled from inside the buildings, but it appears that the Ukrainians and the Russians have gotten into some parts of the city and started a house-to-house clearing. Although the Ukrainians said yesterday that a lightning tech had retaken all of their positions. So I'm not sure if the Ukrainians will be launching another swift attack back to try and regain their original positions, but we'll figure that out tomorrow as more information comes out from the city. So, as far as I have been able to tell, I would like to tell you more about the northeastern area around Krolovets, but there has been no developments nor video that I can actually report on in that area. It also appears that in an odd way, and you may be wondering why this line, because if you're new to the stream, welcome, make sure to subscribe and join the Discord, because YouTube keeps on removing my subscribers, but the red lines are for the front lines, and so you're probably wondering, what is this maroon colored line? And it is a Russian front line-ish. I'm not really sure if the Russians have moved through this area, but there is a video of a Russian convoy in this town of Okhnivki, I believe, and they are moving through to the city of Kiev. So I'm not sure if this is a breakthrough convoy that just managed to slip through the Ukrainian lines and is making its way to Kiev. It may be, but it may suggest that the Russians have actually broken through Krolovets and passed down to the south and then started moving west immediately towards the city of Kiev. So I'm not really sure what that is at the moment. There's not been enough hardcore information that has come out of this area in the north for me to make any clear statements or assumptions, but it appears that the Russians may have made a breakthrough and are going to reinforce the city of Kyiv in their attack on it. Before I move on to Sumi, because there has been a lot of developments in Sumi, I'm going to go to the comments and answer some questions. Let's see. All my news right now is this good man, aka Enforcer. Thank you very much. I'm very glad that you're enjoying the stream and you love the news. I try and report the most, I guess, truthful news, because I've been noticing that the large news television studios in the United States, like CNN and Fox News, report stuff as breaking, although it's about 12 to 16 hours old by the time they're talking about it. So if you're watching the mainstream news, most of your news is like old. It's almost an entire day old. So I'm trying to get the most relevant and up-to-date news, compile it over the course of the day, and then maybe do an hour and 30 minute to a 2-hour live stream to explain what's up. Did you see the video of a farmer stealing a Russian vehicle with a tractor? Yes, I did. I'll be talking about that in a bit. I think it's somewhere around the more southern areas of the fighting, but yes, I have seen it. What's up? Oh, nothing much. We're just running back over the news again. It appears that the chat's kind of like quiet tonight. That's kind of weird. One second, I want to check this out real quick. because I'm very interested if people are just being quiet or what. No, yeah, people are just being quiet. If y'all want to talk, if y'all want to ask questions or anything, please feel free to ask. Because I'm here. I'm here to answer as many questions as I possibly can. That's mostly why I'm compiling all of this news, is because it allows for all of us to get a better picture of what's going on. And so if you have any questions at all, I'd love to hear them. I mean, like, please be active in the chat. I'd love that. So moving on to the city of Sumi. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of large developments. The Russians claim that they've encircled Sumi, but I mean, honestly, due to the Russians being completely untruthful about their casualty statistics, even in the face of evidence that they're not true, I can't believe anything they say. So I believe that the city of Sumi is still half controlled by the Ukrainians and half controlled by the Russians, and the Ukrainians still have intact supply lines heading to the city of Sumi. Nonetheless, there has been a lot of destruction today, as we can see that the Russians have started moving up their quote-unquote newer stuff, and there are a couple of destroyed T-90s around the area. As we can see, this T-90 is burning in the middle of the street. Now, some people may say that's a shock, but if you know that the T-90 is literally just an upgraded T-72, it's not really that much of a shock. It's more expected, in my opinion, at this point. Also, another thing that I find funny is that everyone has always touted that the T-90A is invincible, and that's because in Chechnya, they were famous for being able to bounce shot after shot after shot of RPG-29s being fired at them. But I have to say that Russian equipment versus Russian equipment usually will hold up, because, you know, they're kind of tested on each other. So they're trying to see if the T-90 can be able to deflect an RPG-29 shot. So it's made to do that, but it's not made to stop a javelin from hitting it and blowing it up. So, or any other type of NATO round, because they don't really have those readily available to test. So that being said, this was just hilarious to me that the T-90s are getting destroyed, even after people had been saying for days, oh, wait until the Russians pull out their real good stuff, and then the Ukrainians are really going to be on the run, and it still looks like the Ukrainians are just whipping their asses. So I just like to make that as a note, that that's pretty damn funny to me. So now we'll move over here to a Ukrainian destroys a T-90 on video. It appears that the T-90 had already been abandoned, and they were just shooting it to disable it and destroy it to make sure the Russians cannot just get back in it and start using it again in the future. But here's that video.
Пацики работают по танкам, блядь, ебать. Гори, Россия, суки!
Pretty good video. That's 2 T-90s that have been destroyed at this point. So then also over here, there's a third T-90. Now you're starting to see a trend that the advanced, quote-unquote, Russian stuff is not doing too well either. This one was bogged down and they just abandoned it. So I'll show you that picture right now. Actually, it's a video. I'm sorry if I'm calling them pictures and videos. There's so much news that comes out throughout the day, and I'm just trying to make sure that's all up to date, that I forget if they're pictures or videos. But here's the video of the bogged down T-90. Also, there was a S23M that was abandoned as well, I believe, if I'm correct about that. Or it's a Bucha or something. It kind of appears, if we look at the video a little bit better, is that it looks like the T-90 was trying to drag the SPG out of the mud, and in the process buried itself in the mud as well, and then both vehicles were abandoned. Nonetheless, very hilarious that the Russians are just losing all of their best equipment, quote-unquote, as soon as it reaches the front. And I'll have to say this, a lot of people were probably going to say in the chat in a second, well, what about the T-14, man? Because that thing is the most modern tank in the world. The Russians only have 14 of them, and they're never going to use them in war. They're hardly tested, they're hardly proven. As far as the West knows, they're actually very problem-ridden, because the whole entire tank turret is automated, and they're having a lot of problems with that actually working right. The last I saw of a video in 2018, they could only fire the tank's gun stationary because the targeting computer in the tank was not really like sorted out well enough. So I don't know if they fixed any of those problems, but I know since they only have 14 of those tanks, they are not going to send their flagship brand new tanks into Ukraine to be promptly destroyed, because if that got out, that would definitely make it back into Russia, and that would be a huge morale loss for the Russians, and they will not allow that. Their morale is already low enough, and watching their best equipment get destroyed is my what? Internet went out. Okay. Hopefully I'm back. Let me check on YouTube real quick to make sure I'm still streaming. For the Russians, and they will not allow that. Their morale's already low enough. That's good enough. Apparently my internet went out for a second. Sorry about that. Don't know what that was about. But I just saw some comments, and so before I move on, I'm going to close that window, and before I start talking about the rest of everything that's happened in Sumi today, I'm going to answer some of y'all's comments. So, let's take a look real quick. Oh boy, yay! I love this question. This is the first time it's been asked, and I'm so proud to say this. What website is the map hosted on? Ferris says. This is actually hosted on My Maps, and this sort of system is usually used for you to plan a walking route. But I decided that this was the best system for me to use. One, because it's free, and two, because it allows me a lot of liberty with what I'm doing. I'm not really having to go through a lot of complicated like interfaces to do this. I just lay down a marker. I'm able to throw a link in it with a title. I'm able to draw up the front lines however and edit them whenever I need to. So this is actually a custom map that I've made called on My Maps, and it's just called the Ukraine War map. And so when this is all done, I'm going to send this out into a public forum, so that way you can click on it and interact with the map, and all the links will be active, and you can follow this war day by day, because all of the markers on the map will be color-coded to certain days, and I'll put a legend with it, so that way you can tell which day is which. And so you'll be able to see the wars that happened live, according to the markers, although the front lines do not change per day. I just have this one map, and it shows what had happened over the first day of fighting, the first 24 hours, and the front line then. And I've just been using this as a reference to see how correct I was off of what I was saying. And so far, I've been mostly right, except for this one area where they had this breakthrough up here, and they've moved south of Kralovets. I didn't really think they would do that. I thought they would just try and surround Kralovets and then push straight down this road through Borzna, and then connect with the E95 going into Kyiv. So I was a little bit wrong on that, but everything else, you can ask the rest of the chat. I was right on so far, which was nuts. It was really insane to be right on everything like that, and it tells me that anyone could have guessed this stuff. Good stream, really good work. Thank you. Hope you subscribed and liked the stream. What's most important news? Oh, we're going over all news. I consider all news on the front important news. What about the big 3-mile long convoy headed for Kyiv? I did think about putting that in the stream, but I believe that I don't really know why I didn't, really, come to think of it. I think it was because it was a still image, and it wasn't like a really descriptive and clear image, and I believe I just left it out for that. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't think about that, so I'll make sure to include that link. I'll find it, and I'll include that link and put down a marker, although it won't be covered and seen in tonight's news, although I could probably look through Reddit in a bit and find it. So let's see what other questions we have. Do we have official Russian death and vehicle total? At the moment, the Ukrainians are claiming that they've killed 36 Russians, destroyed 111 tanks, 710 armored personnel carriers, around 29 planes, 31 helicopters, 2 boats. I'm not really sure if they're ships or boats, but they're claiming to have destroyed 2 of them. And they've destroyed a wide array of other vehicles, mostly support vehicles and anti-air vehicles. I know they've destroyed 1 Buck system. They've destroyed, I believe, 4 of the anti-air vehicles. I'm not really sure what they're called, but they're the ones that have the array of 4 surface-to-air missiles. They're exposed to the open air. They're not in any sort of like enclosed box. I forgot what those things are called though, but they've destroyed 4 of those. They've destroyed about 30 trucks. and a couple of other things, but I don't have the official numbers on everything. It's just really been the numbers of infantry, tanks, and armored personnel carriers that I've cared about, because that's the main doctrine of the Russian army, is the armor aspect, and so I've been focusing on that almost entirely. What website are you using for the mapping out of events? My Maps. I think I've already covered that one, so I'll just make that really brief. It's My Maps. I love the earlier satellite pics being shared, helping the Ukrainians. Yes, I do too. I think that's a great help to them strategically. There's also been some more information I wasn't able to include on the map because it came out for me just 5 minutes before the stream, so I couldn't include it, unfortunately. But I'll say it now so I don't forget. The European Union has set up a fund to be able to send aircraft into Ukraine on behalf of the European Union, and it's going to include some Su-25s and MiG-29s. I don't know how many of them there will be, but there will be a decent amount of them, so that's great news. Is the Ukrainian losing in Kyiv, or are they holding up all right? Due to the fog of war, I have not been able to actually update this map for a while, rather than today when I found out they had been besieged, is because there's not really a lot of information coming out about the actual battle in Kyiv, whether it's going good or bad. I do know, though, that they're talking about the Ukrainians are holding a lot of ground in the city, and they're hardly falling back or moving around at all. And also the battles and fighting, excuse me, I'm kind of tired still. The battles and fighting at Bucha and Irpin may suggest that they're trying to at least alleviate the siege and create a roadway into the city, and also retake the Hostomel airport at the same time. I'm not really sure about those battle plans, and don't really want to talk about Ukrainian battle plans in detail at all, because there's a lot of Russian bots wandering around, and I don't know if any of them just sit there and gather news and information from streams and then just report them straight back to the Russian Ministry of Defense. So I'm going to try and keep that one brief. Let's see here. I still think the Russians are just sending conscripts so far. Yes, they are. They're sending conscripts because most of their armies may have conscripts. They have a mandatory service requirement in their country, and all male citizens must serve at least 1 year in the military. And I think that may have been extended to women a few years back, but I'm not really sure about that. The drug wars stop for nothing. I don't really know what that's about. I'm driving and listening, Enforcer. Thank you so much. You're multitasking, man. Thank you for coverage. Hi, I'm from Dnipro. People inspired after successfully repelled first Russian attack. Volunteer battalions actively preparing to support army. All man served before being mobilized. Thank you so much for giving us that information, FLCRM. I want you to know that on behalf of me and most of the American population, we stand with y'all, and we believe that y'all are fighting for glorious and righteous cause of national self-defense. And I highly agree with what y'all are doing. And since you're watching from Dnipro, I wish you could spread the word to everyone that if they're not getting accurate news from the Ukrainians, like, for example, if the Ukrainians' news network is kind of stretched, I'm not saying they're spreading propaganda, but if their news network is kind of stretched and they can't talk about everything, if they want to come on here and listen about the great battles and victories that the Ukrainians have won today, let them know about the stream. Because I have a friend in Ukraine, and the whole reason I started this stream was so that way I could try and relay information to my friend. I'm not going to say his name or where he is, because he was around Kyiv and then he moved out, and I don't want anything to happen to him if the Russians were to start hunting down people. But I want Ukrainians to watch this stuff. Hopefully, y'all would get some great news and information about the war out of this stuff. So thank you so much. If you're in those volunteer battalions, I wish you the best. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you all fight really hard, and I hope you live through it, and I hope you come out of this just safe and fine. Damn good stuff. T90 down. Yes, URL for the map. I can't give an URL because this is a privately held custom map by me. I'm just developing this thing day by day. So it doesn't really have like a public URL that people can click on. You have Starlink now for free. Yes, Elon Musk has given Ukraine Starlink. Hopefully that works, and hopefully he's not using this as some sort of like really shitty excuse to have like a trial on Starlink and see how well it works, because if that is what he's doing, I'm going to lose a lot of respect for him. But if it actually works and it's helping out Ukrainians, More power to him. That's a great thing he's done. Let's see. I hope Ukrainians get those tanks out and get them to the front lines, use against him. Yes, I can agree, but I am kind of scared because someone brought up that Ukrainians should walk up to Russian tanks with Apple tags, Apple Air tags, and tape them or on somewhere on the tank so that way the Ukrainians can track their movements. And I'm starting to think the Russians are abandoning so many vehicles that there must be some Russians out there that have also thought of that idea, and if they have an Apple tag, they bought one and are taping them onto the tanks before they leave. So I'm kind of worried about that, but that worry may be completely misfounded. They may not have anything on that like them. Also, I'm looking forward to the share. Thank you. That's why Putin threatening nukes. Yes, because it's going terribly poor for him. And we'll get to that in a second. I was going to try and address foreign affairs in a minute, and I'm actually thinking about making the stream focus less on the foreign aspects of things, unless if they're directly involving Ukraine. But that one was directly involving Ukraine, so that one got included. We'll talk about that in a bit, though. Let's see. How are you able to know where the markers for images go if you're setting it up? That's a great question, and the answer is there are approximate locations. Some of them aren't even approximate locations. They're just put on the map because I really have nowhere else to put them. Like this one here. I mean, like, I don't even know where it really came from, but it was a Russian radio interception with translation. It appears that the link has disappeared. Maybe it was deleted or something by me earlier because it stopped working. But it was a Russian talking about how 3 BTGs, which are battalion tactical groups, which are the basic level unit in the Russian army. Like you can go all the way down to platoon level, but the basic operational level unit for them is a BTG, and he was talking about how 3 of them had been destroyed, and I didn't really know where that was or what area he was talking about because he never directly referenced it in the video, so I just put it up around Chernihiv because the fighting's been very fierce up there and there's been a lot of destruction, so I kind of assumed it would be in an area like that. Yes, most of this is all approximations, except for a few of them that were accurately placed, like this one here for the Mi-8s, and this one here for the Antonov 225 being destroyed. Those are almost spot on in terms of the location that it happened, but some of them are not. So it's not like a perfect map as in, like, it is within the foot of where it happened, but it's in the general area. Dnipro is all Ukraine defended by its heroes. Yes, it is, and I wish that guy the best of luck. If he's fighting age and he's got a gun, he's in the volunteer battalions. I hope he comes out of this well, and I hope he pushes the Russians back. They need to take out the first few vehicles of the convoy in the tail end, then pick the rest of the convoy and send them on disarray. Yes, that's what they did in Chechnya. That's what the Chechens did to the Russians there, and I think the Ukrainians will start to pick up on those tactics as well. Russian rubles sold on black market only. Exchange rate fell from 70 for $1 to 140. Banks not selling any dollars. Oof, that's really bad. Their stock market is effed. It is. News from my relatives in Russia. They still don't understand what's going on. They don't believe propaganda, but they try to convince themselves that Russians just protect themselves. Oh, that's funny. I don't understand people try to believe that any sort of offensive war most of the time is to defend themselves. There is a few exceptions though, like the American invasion of Afghanistan, which, we went in there to get Osama bin Laden, and then he left the country as soon as we got there. I think he left really a month before, but in like international terms, that's pretty much as soon as we were getting there, he had already left. But the invasion of Iraq is kind of like that because there's really no proof in the 2003 invasion that they were making weapons of mass destruction. No hardcore proof. And we kind of invaded that country and destabilized it for really no reason. The only thing good that came out of it was that Saddam Hussein wasn't torturing his own citizens anymore, but rather than that, that one was kind of questionable. But we'll stay off of that. We're talking about Ukraine, so. Correct me, Russians do not know the truth of what's going on. Yeah, that's what I've heard. And I've heard that a lot of them actually support what Putin's doing because most of them just watch the TV news. And so, because state TV is controlled in Russia, and so they get to control, the government gets to, I don't know what's wrong with me talking tonight, but since they get to control the news that most people hear, they hear nothing but propaganda, so they really like what Russia is doing and they believe in the cause. but it appears that the conscripts on the ground in Ukraine don't really believe in the cause as much. Let's see. They not really sending conscripts, not a single POW yet conscript. They sending only people with contract, but contract sometimes been signed just days before they enter Ukraine. Oh no, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful. Starlink is working. That was confirmed earlier. Very good. That's great. Good thing he's not using it as like a trial test version to see how it works on a country that's trying to defend itself and its entire livelihood. If not, they not really try and fight. Okay. I am a LPR in Washington State. Lived in USA for 27 years. My flight is leaving in 2 hours to Poland. Then I will cross Ukraine to help my people. Oh, Pavel, you are a hero, man. You're going to be the kind of people that Lukashenko looks and fears, because there's some news about him in a minute, and it's not good news at all. I'm coming to Ukraine. Good for you, man. I hope you go over there and you fight really well for him, and I hope you help them push the Russians back. I saw biggest arm in Lestwin, Oregon. Welcome back. I saw a picture of Razmin Kadyrov's brother fighting Ukraine. Was it just a photo op? I don't think so, because I believe if I click on one of these links up here, let me make sure it's one of the right ones. I think it's down here. No? Oh, yes. The Chechen general Magomed Tushiev has already been killed. I don't know if that included the Chechen that you're talking about, Kadyrov's, but it may have been. Your God be with you, Pavel. I do agree. I hope he's going to be well. Do you think we will get nuked? I'm not going to say. I don't really know. What is this map? It's a custom map I made on my maps. I've been updating it day by day on my own. I don't really rely on any other maps to draw up the front lines. I just go off the information I know, the battle plans that have been assumed, and then when information comes out anywhere, I adjust the battle plans and the battle map to accurately depict the developments that have been going on. The areas in green, the zones in green, are the areas I believe that the Russians will be trying to push. Eventually, as part of their first day battle plans, this is what they would have looked like. So far, they've been entirely right in the area of Kyiv, because they've taken literally the exact area that I had laid out on the first day of fighting. Literally on my first stream, I laid out these areas in green, like so, and now they pretty much have pushed all of them, and now they've gone beyond it, so it looks like they're starting to go on into their, like, first few days objectives instead of just their first day objectives at this point. So that's where the maps come from. And now we will get back to reporting the information from Sumi. Wait a minute, I think we have one more thing in Sumi, and then we'll move on. The Ukrainian citizens in Sumi appear to get a little new friend today, as it appears they are driving a Russian prisoner that they captured, maybe, back to a Ukrainian collection point.
Ось у нас первый трофей. Взяли вообще без единого выстрела. С танчика вообще скинули нахуй. Танчик поломаний, ніхуя не стрілять. Тобто стрілять, ніхуя не їде. Це все з верхньої сироватки. Хвальона Т-90 єбуча, путінська. Хай знають, блядь, нашого брата.
Скоро скаже слава Україні,
Да,
героям слава, через
научим
полчаса.
Кричи, кажи, слава Україні. Кажи давай.
Ми остановимося зараз в натурі.
Кажи.
Остановлюсь, скажи слава Україні.
Громче.
Героям слава.
Молодець.
О, оце молодець.
That was a funny one. That was actually funny. I hadn't watched the whole thing earlier today, but I love how they started threatening the guy that if he didn't say Slava Ukraine, they were going to stop the car, like they were going to pull him out and whip him like a little belligerent child. That was really funny. I don't believe that constitutes as a war crime either, so that's just some good tomfoolery right there. Moving on down to Kharkiv now. We've had a lot more developments in Kharkiv, as it appears that it is being attacked much like Kiev is being attacked, with the intensity of it. And you may notice this little jujitsu, man, and I have to say that that was very brave what this guy did, and so we'll save the best for last. So anyways, we have some more abandoned T-80 BVMs on the side of the road. Now here is once again Russia's greatest and finest, and they are being abandoned. So I don't even think that the argument can be made anymore. Wait until the Russians pull out their best stuff, and then things are going to get hairy, because they've already pulled out their best stuff today, and it's already being abandoned on the spot in the battlefield. So I don't even think that matters anymore. Also over here, we see that there was a destroyed Tunguska, which once again leads into the whole thing of, oh, when they bring out their best, it's going to get rough for them, and they're already being destroyed and abandoned. So going off of that, the Russians are still in a tough spot, even bringing out their better stuff. Some more developments that have happened today. There have been some light forces spotted in the city of Kharkiv. I'll show you all that video. It's nothing more than some armored vehicles moving around with troop patrols. But nonetheless, it is troop movements in Kharkiv, and so it's reported. You can see there's a rather large amount of them. Sorry for the loud noise at the end. It's in the video. But you can see there's a large amount of them, although it's a light force for the Russians, because it consists of nothing but armored cars. It appears that there is a lot of infantry along with them. Down here, we see that those Russians, it may be the same ones, were ambushed later on outside of a playground.
Улица Саперная, Тигр. 2 штуки пока вижу. 3 ползет, солдаты крадутся с автоматами на изготовку. 3, 4 КАМАЗ. Ебать! С тяжелого стреляют в сторону домов. С гранатомета сейчас ебет. Пиздец, у нас стреляют. Ебать!
Although it appears that they were putting up a somewhat stiff resistance to the Ukrainians, you can notice that they really didn't expect what was about to happen, and so their response was very disorganized, and it appeared that the armored cars started to just speed ahead to get out of the firefight. So, in regards to that, I don't know how that firefight concluded, but it didn't look like it would conclude well for the Russians. So we'll move on over here to the eastern side of the city, and I will show you some destroyed Ukrainian and Russian equipment, because while the Ukrainians have been inflicting heavy losses, it would be somewhat ignorant of me to completely omit Ukrainian losses, but luckily they've only lost 1 BTR-4 on the street, and it appears that they took out 2 or 3 Russian Tiger armored cars. So they apparently are inflicting greater losses on the enemy than they are taking themselves. And so going off of that, the Ukrainians are still at a upper hand advantage at the moment. Over here we can see that there was an unexploded missile, and it appears to have rested itself inside of a garden shed. It's a very weird picture to look at, considering that it is a normal missile, and it's just sitting on the side of a garden shed, pretty much, if it will load. It will not load. That's unfortunate. It was a very weird picture, and it was very lucky for the Ukrainians that that thing didn't explode, because it looked like it was only about 30 feet away from an apartment building, and if it had blown up, I'm sure there would have been injuries and civilian casualties. Here we can see a large convoy in Kharkiv.
27 февраля. 7 утра. Даже 8. Ну и что хотите сказать, ребятки? Ребята думают, куда ехать. Еще раз поворачивают у нас.
As you can see, it appears to be a much more lightly armored convoy than the light convoy that we saw over on the western side of the city earlier. And so, going off of that, I'd assume that this area must be less contested, or either they have very poor planning and they're just driving these lightly armored KAMAZ trucks into the middle of the city to promptly get destroyed, probably filled with infantry as well. So if they do that, that'd be great because that's going to help out the Ukrainian cause a lot more. We also see some more destroyed Russians in Kharkiv. I'm believing that this is on the eastern side, but these are burning Tiger armored cars. These may even be the same ones from the light convoy earlier, but I'm not really sure.
В Харькове не сильно рады русским.
As you can see, the vehicles were destroyed on site, apparently. Don't know what they were destroyed by, but they were destroyed, which is a good thing for the Ukrainians, because it shows that they are still kicking in Kharkiv. And that's very important, because the Russians are trying to push a story that Kharkiv has been entirely encircled. And according to what information I can gather, that's not true at all. It appears that they are still pretty much in the same frontline positions that they were in the first day of the war. Moving on over, we see some more captured equipment in Kharkiv. It looks like some kind of captured ammo cache that they've gathered from the Tigers that have been left out in the middle of the street once more. Those are not in the picture, but there is a video supporting this picture that shows that the Ukrainians got in the firefight immediately after this picture was taken while they were still trying to move all of the ammo and weapons out from this area. So moving on more towards the center of city, we see that there are more firefights in Kharkiv, more clashes, and more destruction as the firefights appear to sound absolutely hellish, as there is almost no break in the firing at all. So the fighting is very tough in Kharkiv, but it's been like that ever since the first day nearly. And I have to say that the Ukrainians are doing their damn best to keep up with that kind of pressure and push it back. Because the Ukrainian mayor of Kharkiv today said that they had actually pushed all of the Russians back out of Kharkiv again. And I don't know if that's true at the moment, because right now I believe that the sun will start rising in Ukraine again in about another hour or two. But as of the daytime, the last amount of daylight they had in Kharkiv, they had pushed the Russians back out of the city again. So we'll move down here into the middle. We can hear artillery booms in the middle of Kharkiv. I'll just show you all that video. It's rather self-explanatory. So it appears that the city is coming under direct artillery fire, even going through the middle of the apartment blocks. And finally, I have a man who emphasizes the spirit of the Ukrainians, and our lucky buddy in the chat who's watching with us tonight from Dnipro. And this man took on a Russian with a gun with nothing but his fists. Yeah, hopefully the video loads. I believe it may have been a Reddit. Yeah, it was a Twitter thing, so hopefully it still loads.
Тихо, я не понял, короче, этого они сторожа отпугиваются.
Look at this guy. Damn it, they deleted it. The Russian soldier shot around his feet, and the guy at the last frame of the video was squaring up the Russian for a punch, and then the video had ended there. But of course, Twitter is being a bastard and deleting all the videos, so I can't show them to y'all, sadly, so I'm sorry about that. So, before we move on to any other areas of the front, let me answer some questions from the comments, and we'll see what we got. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of stuff in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to try and answer everything. Wow, damn, there was really a lot. Golly. Let's see. Wow, this chat's blown up. They may be spreading propaganda via television, but Russian people can see the truth on the internet. That's true, but very few of them get on the internet, according to the statistics that I was told today. So hopefully there's a lot more of them that will be getting on the internet, and we'll see the truth of what's going on. Live UA map. I want to do the live UA map sometime around to compare my information with theirs, but the problem with the live UA map is that they don't include as much information as I am. I include everything that I've seen on video over the course of the day, and they'll include like 4 or 5 things. So I think it's more of like an emergency services system at this point for people inside of Ukraine, but it's not actually trying to report all the information that has been compiled over the day in like one sitting. So I will try and use it, and also another thing is that the servers are always down for me, and I can't ever really get on it often. So it's kind of unreliable. But rather than those 2 things, I will try. Godspeed, Pavel. I forgot Pavel's also going to Ukraine too. Good luck, Pavel. And if you are over in Ukraine and the news gets hard to find, just remember, as long as you have internet, you can watch this channel here, and I'll try and keep y'all apprised of the information in this war every single day. I stream every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Approximately, it'll be somewhere around that ballpark, a little bit after or before that time, but 10 p.m. Eastern Time every single day until this war is over is the plan. Did you see the videos where you can see dead Russian soldiers? I feel sorry for them. They are all young, 18 to 25. Yes, I have seen a lot of videos with dead Russian soldiers, but I don't really feel that sorry for them because they are the ones who are killing civilians. At this moment, they've killed around 330 Ukrainian civilians, and so I don't really feel too sorry for them because while they're boys, they are committing crimes. So they get what they deserve. I don't think U.S. can be nuked. You still have missile defense. Maybe Ukraine will just to show off what consequences waiting for those who stand versus Putin. Yes, I do think that may actually be a thing that happens, but the Russians have supposedly have developed a nuclear torpedo, which has an explosive yield of 2 Tsar bombs. So I don't know if that's true, and I've never seen it actually work or tested, and usually they test that stuff before they use it, so I don't know if that's true or not. But yes, I hope that Ukraine doesn't get nuked, because if they did, I believe that nuclear missiles airborne without any declaration of where they're going would cause an immediate mutually assured destruction situation across the entire world, because it would cause a chain reaction, especially with the European powers, because Russia would launch the nukes, they would see a nuclear missile go airborne from St. Petersburg, and they would probably catch it somewhere like this, because they don't take perfect straight paths, they usually curve, and they would probably have it curve over Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and so saying that, the British would pick that thing up, and it'd be about here, and then they'd see it moving down here, and they'd probably be thinking that may be going for a NATO country, and maybe going for Poland, and so then they'll immediately start launching all of their nuclear weapons. They have about 400 of them, and France would also start launching their nuclear weapons, and they have about 400, so you have 800 nuclear weapons going towards Russia, and then the United States starts picking all of this stuff up, and so they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to say that, this kind of sounds like dumb, but they would be thinking, oh shit, everything's going off, the Russians will be targeting us in a minute, we're just picking up everything going towards the European countries, and then they will unload all of their nuclear weapons straight towards Russia. So, I mean, I think that the Russians wouldn't try doing that with Ukraine, because if they did, it would pretty much cause an international immediate nuclear response, which would destroy Russia and the rest of the world, but hopefully America's Patriot missile defense system would work. It's like a larger scale version of the Iron Dome, for those of y'all who don't know what the Patriot missile defense system is. And if y'all don't know what the Iron Dome missile defense system is, I just recommend pulling that up in the middle of the stream, and y'all watch that, like a little video about that, because it's a very interesting and very smart system in the modern world, and it really helps out the Israelis who own the system. Nice. Pavel Shevchenko. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Yes, what is your assessment on Putin's nuke threats? I kind of covered them already. But I don't really think they're entirely true. I feel like they're almost like Cold War posturing nuke threats, because we almost got the same kind of nuke threats from the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and I feel like these are kind of similar. But then again, Putin has done some very unpredictable things over the past few days, especially invading Ukraine. So I don't really know if the nuke threats are fake or real, because it seems like he's almost lost his mind. What sources do you get the info for your map? I get my sources from, and don't judge me when I say this, but I get them from Reddit, because people are uploading footage to combat footage, and they're showing stuff that's happening in Ukraine, and usually they include a location. And so once I get a video that has a location included, I mark it on the map, and if it does not have a location included, it is omitted from the map, because I don't really know where it happened, and I don't have enough information to pinpoint and say where it happened. So that's where I'm getting the information at the moment. And also try and cross-check it with the mainstream news, but they're so slow at reporting everything. They're like 12 to 16 hours behind at this point. And so I've stopped doing that. So I'm really just relying on everything that's uploaded on Reddit at this point. Have you seen Jocko Willink's presidential message? If so, thoughts? I don't know who Jocko Willink is, so I have not, sadly. Can I give my opinion on the Russian advancement, giving numerous years of experience? Yes, if you're saying that the Russian advance is incredibly slow, and they appear to be losing a lot of material in terms of manpower and equipment, then yes, that would be pretty on point, and I'd be more than glad to hear what you think about it in the comments. Mostly Russian soldiers have chance not to go to Ukraine, but they were brainwashed in only 2 to 3 days. They will be on victory parade in Kyiv. Yes, they were. I believe they were. And now they're on their 4th day, and now the sun is going to start rising on the 5th day of their hell in Ukraine, and they're going to be waking up and wondering, why the hell am I here? This was supposed to be done in 2 days, and it's the 5th day now. Putin committed suicide trying to take as many people with him. Yes, I think that might be true. And all people in Ukraine hate current government. What was your last comment? Let's see. Oh, you're talking about what they said about the Russian soldiers. Yeah, I think they were told that, and it was kind of true. I mean, kind of, because Zelensky's approval ratings were around 35 to 40% before this war kicked off, but now they're saying they're all the way up to 90%. And I have to agree, the man is a lion. I mean, he's in the middle of a besieged city. There's no way out for him now. It relies entirely on the defenders of the city and him to fight the Russians off. And he is in there, and he is rallying the entire country. You cannot even say of another modern politician that would do that sort of thing. And so this guy has got my approval. If this guy came over to America and said, I'm going to become the president of the U.S. and overthrow the government, I think at this point, I'd probably pick up a gun and support him, because he's doing so much for Ukraine that you have to think that someone like that must be a great man and someone to follow. So I'm really proud of the Ukrainian government, to summarize. Why are there no videos? There are videos. If you hang out for a bit, I'll just probably cut off the question answering, comment answering in a bit, because there's so many of them. I thank you all so much for this, but I do want to keep reporting the news, because, you know, people are here to hear the news and all, and I don't want to hold it off for too long. But the other hand, side note that that this was not intended to provide the following models with the following. I don't really know what you mean by that, but I guess. Haha, it doesn't count as a war crime, agreed. Yeah, it doesn't. Russian best is less than American surplus. That's true. That's really true. The Russians just have inferior equipment. They have a really small military budget as well, so the inferior equipment they do buy, they can hardly maintain. And so it's really bad. Russia just throwing bullet sponges at this point. Very true. The U.S. military, if they wanted, could overrun Ukraine in about 2 to 3 days. I would never want to see a day that the U.S. military was trying to invade Ukraine. So I won't even like elaborate on that one. It doesn't show much. I don't know what you mean, but Russia's best is less than Harbor Freight. Oh no, that's fighting words right there. You're going to get us in World War III saying that on the internet. A Russian bot just reported that to Putin, and he's getting the nukes ready right now. They are waiting for orders. Okay. The U.S. military overran Afghanistan in 20 years and nothing changed. I mean, kind of. We really took over that country in like a month. And we really took over the areas that mattered in like a week or less. I believe it was like about 5 days. But we occupied the country to a point and tried to help the government we installed for about 20 years. And that didn't really go well because the Afghan culture isn't really built to support a democracy. So it clashes with their culture too much for it to really exist, to put it that way. I have to agree, that was pretty funny what the guy said. Oh, come on, why do you need to do so? I kind of agree. Only Putin wants war, the other side wants to drink vodka and admire Russian women. I mean, Russian women are pretty. Just take Ukraine as 51 state, majority of people will support this idea in Ukraine. Hey, I mean, like, we welcome you, man. You're more American than most Americans at this point. People making fun of Russian troops saddens me. Both Ukraine and Russian troops are following orders. We shouldn't have this war in the first place. I agree, but Russian troops are invading a country right now, and so any Russian killed is any Russian that's dead is a good Russian in my opinion. That is one patrol. There was 2 through the city. There's another video. Sadly, I don't have that one, but thank you for letting me know. Are the videos of the Russians who were caught real? Yes, they're real. There's really no time for the Ukrainians to stage anything. They are in a life or death struggle for the survival of their nation, and so they're real. You can also find a lot of videos of them on the front lines in the middle of the destruction. And, you know, the front lines are very unstable for the Ukrainians. Even if they're holding really well, they're constantly under artillery barrage and stuff, so it's not really like the best filming environment to make propaganda. But if you watch the Russian stuff, you can see that their stuff is just entirely made up. They have all these Ukrainian prisoners just walking around some nice building in Rostov-on-Don on the interior of it, and they come up with all this fake stuff, so they're making it up, but I don't think the Ukrainians are making it up. They are young children just becoming men. They had no idea why they was there. That's true. Shooting into residential area. Yes, they were. They were. I saw that. I think I may have that on the map, but I'm not really sure. The last 2 videos were the same incident. The first video was the aftermath of the second. Thank you for clearing that up. We make fun of them to cope. That is no malice in it. Well, I mean, like, if you make fun of them either way, it won't really matter much to me. People are right, they're just following orders and fighting someone else's war. Yeah, but I mean, like, people who are following, like, a lot of people followed orders. I mean, like, there was a lot of Germans that followed some orders and killed about 6 to 7 million people. And there was a lot of Russians a lot of Soviets way back in the day that followed orders and killed around 20 million people. So, in terms of people following orders, they're about as liable for following the orders as the people who are in charge giving the orders, in my opinion. This war is Putin's war, not the Russians' war. At this point, I agree. It's entirely Putin's war. It has really nothing to do with the Russian people. But a lot of Russians, I mean, they're not a majority on the internet, but a lot of Russians believe that a lot of Ukraine is Russian speaking and should be back with Russia. Mostly the eastern side, east of the Dnieper River. So, I mean, you know, take that for what you will. Oh, sorry, should we in Ukraine love Russian soldiers and avoid mocking them after all that shells fell on our heads? I have to agree. That's the whole thing I'm saying. I mean, like, you can't sit there and try and sympathize with a group of people who are shelling residential areas, killing civilians, and invading a country. I mean, regardless of whether you want to do it or not, they are there. And so you can't really sit there and try and sympathize with an invading force, because then what are you going to do? Just say, oh, I'm going to step aside and let you invade the country because you really don't want to be here, and let you achieve the goals of the guy you say you're not really associated with, although you're here doing his bidding? You know, that's kind of my thing. I mean, like, even if they don't really want to be there, they are doing the bidding of the guy, and so they're as guilty as the guy giving the orders. So with that, there's been a lot of more messages. I'm so oh my god, there's more. Let's see, I might... Yeah, we'll have to remove this guy. I'm sorry. If you're from Ukraine and you're just spamming the chat, I'm sorry, but, that's too much spam, so, we're gonna have to remove these comments. I'm just gonna have to hide you from the channel. So I'm sorry about that. But anyways, back to the news. So, at the city of... well, not the city, the village of Balaklia. Today there was a large mushroom cloud that appeared over the army depot. It appears that it has been hit once more. You can see the mushroom cloud right there. And so this suggests that that ammo depot may have been entirely wiped out today, unlike yesterday where it was just hit and had a small fire. So moving on from the north and eastern areas of the front, we're going to start moving down towards the Donetsk and Luhansk areas, which, although a lot of ground has been made, has had very little news today. For one big thing, I was talking about the other day, if y'all weren't on the stream the other day, I was saying this, but I was saying that now that the Russians have landed near Mariupol, which Mariupol is currently under siege, just wanting to let y'all know, and they've also taken the city of Berdyansk, which is a city with a population of 110,000 people. But I said that now that they had this front over here and they had landed at Mariupol, the Ukrainians are going to withdraw their forces from this area and between the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, which I outlined in black, and they're going to fall back, which is going to allow the Russians and the DNR and LNR, I believe it is, to clear out this area and then move troops through here, and in this pocket push up through the center and then push the Ukrainians back to a defensive line somewhere around here. It's what I said the other day. And it appears that's true because we have videos of the DNR crossing westward into that opening in the front where there's a bit of a weak spot. So here's that video. I assure you they'll be killed soon enough. Down at Mariupol, there has been some captured BMP-3s, which is another one of Russia's latest and greatest technologies, and it appears that it was no match for the Ukrainian defenders as they were captured almost intact. With all this captured equipment at this point, Ukraine could go and build a whole new army. So anyways, I'll cut that video short. All you need to know is that more modern tech has been captured by the Ukrainians, and that is good news. Meanwhile, the city of Berdyansk, there appears to be some very bad news, as it appears that Russian troops have captured the town almost without a fight. I believe the Ukrainians gave this town up, which isn't a bad thing. It makes strategic sense because it was in a very indefensible position. It could have been attacked from two sides, and they could have easily been encircled, so they withdrew from the area. But nonetheless, we can see that there are some more trained, it appears, Russian troops in this area, as they are kind of following in a formation behind their armored personnel carrier, as you can see there. They're staying in a group, instead of like the large cackles of soldiers that you see in places like Kharkiv that have no strategy. So this may suggest that these were the naval invasion forces that are moving into Berdyansk, because usually you try and reserve your more trained troops for naval invasions because they're very tough to pull off if the coast is well defended. Also, another video, we see some Russian equipment in Berdyansk. I believe this is a video. Yes, it's a video of some Russian equipment hiding in between residential buildings. So it appears that they're using Berdyansk as kind of like a parking spot for Russian units who are currently resting or inactive. So if anyone can call up the Ministry of Defense in Ukraine, tell them to get some Su-25s heading that way now, because that may be a place where they're trying to set up a FOB to help out their logistical issues that they're having all across the front. That's nothing more than speculation, though. Let me make sure that's clear. I don't really know if they're doing that still. That is purely speculation, and I don't know if it's true or not. Moving on over here, we can see that there has been some artillery near Kherson, but most importantly, near the hydroelectric dam. And so I'll show that to y'all right now. It appears that they are trying to uproot the Ukrainians from their defensive positions on the other side of the Dnieper, but I'm not really sure about that at the moment. And as information comes out, we'll see what has happened. It appears that the Ukrainians have retaken the city of Kherson, but I'm not entirely sure about that information. So this front line will stay the way it is. But Mi-28s were spotted over the city of Kherson today, which are some of Russia's best attack helicopters, which suggests that they're starting to run out of old equipment to use, and now they're having to start to pull in new equipment to try and keep this offensive lively. What this tells me is that the Russians may start running out of vehicles to use, because while everyone says, you know, oh, on paper, the Russians just absolutely stomp the Ukrainians. You know, they have like almost 10,000 tanks, like 30,000 APCs. I mean, like even more than that, I think. But the problem with that statement is that they hardly even have a budget to even pay their own troops. So going off of that, do you really think they have enough budget to really maintain thousands of tanks and armored personnel carriers throughout the course of the year? And the answer that I have to give to that is no. And so I think the actual fieldable number of vehicles they have is actually much lower than the numbers they have on paper. So I'll leave that there. That's just nothing but speculation, so I'll just leave that at that. Meanwhile, a Russian APC appears to have been evaporated in the city of Mykolaiv. I don't know what it was hit by, but it was entirely destroyed. I mean, like, there's nothing left of this thing. I'll show y'all the next picture. This one, which is the best one, and we'll leave it at this. It was blown apart so bad that the whole entire front of the tank and the rest of it doesn't exist. Just a few wheels in the back, the drive wheel, and a little bit of the floor, and the engine block. And that's all that's left. And that's wild. I don't know what hit that thing, but whatever the Ukrainians hit that with was something strong. So more power to them. That, apparently they pulled out the maximum firepower on that, and it delivered. So great job to them. Moving on to outside of the city, there has been an unfortunate calamity today, as it appears that a Ukrainian convoy has been destroyed outside of the city. So I'll show that, but I don't want y'all to feel too bad, because as far as we know, the Ukrainians are taking almost no losses compared to the Russians. So while this is unfortunate news, it's not war-ending news. This isn't something that's being repeated across the entire front, but I'll let y'all see anyways. And I'll cut that one short because I don't really like to think about that part of the current goings-ons. But anyways, near the town of Berezivka today, there was another large airstrike, although I believe one occurred yesterday as well. You can see the remnants of the mushroom cloud that occurred over there today.
Вот так вот ебануло. Горят дома. Развернулся самолет. Вот это пиздец. Березовка.
I don't know the target they were going for, but apparently it called for a heavy bomb to be dropped, a larger one, or something of that nature, because it appeared that whatever they were trying to destroy must have been rather large. So moving on from that, I believe that we have run out of things to talk about in Ukraine proper, and now we're going to start moving on to the things that have happened outside of the country today. Most importantly, near the country of Belarus, because there's been a lot of interesting developments. Today, actually, in Ukraine time, there is supposed to be a Ukrainian delegation that will go to the Belarusian border and begin, discussions with the Belarusians and the Russians about some sort of ceasefire agreement. But the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, he does not sound like he's very he doesn't have a positive outlook about these talks that they're about to have, so I wouldn't expect much to come out of them. But meanwhile, the Belarusians are talking about sending troops within the next few hours. They're pretty much saying that that's a certainty at this point, although that will not be much added in terms of the Russians' power that they're fielding against the Ukrainians. The Belarusian army is only 70,000 men large. It's like I believe it's about a third the size of the Ukrainian defense forces when you're not including the militia in those numbers. So, I mean, like at best, I mean, like they're weaker than the Chechens, and you know, they're not going to send their entire army all at one time into Ukraine. That's not a solid move for any country in the world, because they always have to maintain a show of force to the rest of the countries around them. So you can maybe expect around 30 to 40,000 Belarusian troops to join the war, if they are to join it soon. Also, very important news today. The Russians have deployed nukes into Belarus and have declared that the nuclear forces of Russia are on a high readiness standard. So, as far as that goes, many people are believing that's a direct threat to the West, that Russia will nuke them. The Ukrainians also believe that it's a direct threat on them, and Russia is trying to up the pressure for the Ukrainians to surrender. Either way, this is a serious escalation of the conflict in an international way that requires an international response. And I believe that the NATO alliance and really the entirety of the UN ought to respond to this bold threat quickly and swiftly, to put that down as fast as possible. So now that I've run over the news today, over the Ukrainian front in its entirety. Oh, we forgot Zitomir. I'm sorry. Let me go down here and let's talk about the missile hits at the Zitomir airport that happened today. And I'll just show you all the video. It's rather self-explanatory once more. Missile hit at an airport. You can see it up here in the top of the screen. Seemed to be an incredibly large one. So we're assuming that it's an Iskander missile. One of the larger ones that the Russians fire. It's a cruise missile of sorts. And with that, the news for the day is concluded. So I'll go back to answering questions, and I'll try and answer questions for as long as possible, and then the stream will end. But it won't end soon. So stick around if you'd like, and I'll try and answer all of everyone's questions. Oh my goodness, there's just so much. Could this be this is real Putin's face? Yes, I think it could. He's a two-faced guy, and everyone's always wanted to depict him as the cool spy guy, but I mean, like, really honestly, he's always come off as kind of like a street thug. I think if you're from Ukraine or some country over there, I would call him a gopnik. He's always come off like that to me. I don't really like the guy. Ryan, I think you're right, and Putin is so old, he seems like he doesn't care. Yeah, I kind of agree, too. I think he's losing his mind. He's losing hard, had to pull the nuclear card. Yeah, he is, and I think he knows that as well, and they're just trying to keep on selling this fake story to all the Russians that they're winning and everything's going fine and they've taken almost no casualties, when everyone knows that's not true, because they had 2 IL-76s shot down near Kyiv, and that's at least a couple of hundred people already, and they're not even admitting that. Your stuff is the best so far as a visual. Thank you very much. I've been trying to improve the visuals as much as possible. If anyone wants to join my Discord and help me out with the intro and exit cards, because I'm not really liking them all that much, I would like a montage of all the Ukrainian successes that have been found in the war so far on video, and I'd like that to be played behind the intro and exit music. So if anyone wants to join the Discord and maybe throw something together for me to use, I would be very thankful, because I'd like to try and make Ukraine look as good as possible. What's the point in Sneer Minsk? We just covered that, so it's a good thing I just got to that. Sup, hey, how are you doing? Hope you like, comment, and subscribe. I don't think China has the balls, really. I don't really know what that's about, but I bet that was just a discussion in the comments. And I'm glad y'all are having a discussion in there. It's y'all have really good discussions. They're very good questions, and I'm glad y'all are, around asking them and saying stuff. Chechnya, Pakistan, and possibly Turkey is going to aid Russia. I don't think Turkey is going to aid Russia, because in 2019 they were being very friendly with the Ukrainians. Pakistan will stay neutral, for sure, because Pakistan is trying to play all sides right now to get very good trade deals. And then no fucks, nice name. As a trained special forces soldier, I support the Ukraine because every child should have the right to decide who they do and do not have sex with. Okay. Putin has changed, and I believe he is terminally sick. I think he may be as well. I don't really know much about it, but he does look kind of ill, doesn't he? I mean, like he almost looks like he has like a brain tumor, kind of, in my opinion. You know, with how his eyes kind of look, it looks like he's starting to lose like motor function or something. But also, did anyone notice that today in those talks he was having with the camera, and he had the Minister of Defense, I believe his name is Sergei Shoigu or something like that. He was sitting at the table and he looked terrified. Everyone who's been around Putin lately looks terrified, like he's acting completely unhinged behind the scenes. So I'll just leave that at that. Apparently, he looks very unhinged to me. THAAD is the newest version of U.S. missile defense, has proven to be able to shoot down regional ballistic missiles. IBMs or ICBMs are the ones no one can stop. Are you sure though? Are you, because I mean, like, ICBMs have been the constant threat over the course of 60 years, and I feel like America would be in the process of, or secretly be in the possession of, some sort of system that can shoot down ICBMs. Why is India neutral? Is that shameful? Well, India, I believe, is kind of economically aligned to the Russians a good bit. They have a lot of military equipment from Russia, and they're trying to change that recently and start going more towards an American way. But at the moment, they're more economically tied to Russia, and so they're going to, you know, lean more towards the Russians and stay neutral in that form. Turkey is not aiding Russia. That's true. I will block all the streets, make Russia go into the mud. Yes, and the mud will bog them down because in some areas it's rained and snowed, and so it's kind of turned into that muddy slush that Ukraine was known for in World War II. And so the tanks will just get bogged down in it, like we saw that T-90, well, a lot of T-90s near Sumi doing earlier today. How long do you think Ukraine will last? Oh man, I'm not going to give a number, man. We've got Ukrainians in the chat. They're in here. They sound determined. I think Ukraine will last until the end of the war. I think they're going to get a negotiated peace that will be in their favor. It won't be. I mean, like, I'm not talking about in their favor as in they get to depose Putin or anything, but it'll be in their favor as nothing really changes and they defended their country. I believe that's what will happen. Anonymous hacker has any influence for the Ukrainian resistance? I think you're talking about you? Yes, yes. They're trying to look for hackers right now. If you want to be a hacker for the Ukrainians, I believe there are some sources and information you can find about that on the official Ukraine Twitter pages. So go take a look if you're trying to hack for the Ukrainians. Turkey is helping Ukraine. Yes. Ukraine will last forever. That is true. I think Ukraine will last until the end of time. Until they're nuked, until they're until they're almost having a genocide committed against them, they will hold. Turkey will turn away from the West more and more. No, because they're a NATO member, and if they start turning away from, they really can't turn away from the West because they're a NATO member and they're a very unstable country politically, and so they really rely on the West for a lot of stuff. And also, on top of that, Turkey is not helping Russia because they've closed off the Dardanelles and the Strait of Istanbul today to Russian naval forces entirely. Not just warships, every kind of ship that comes from Russia has been blocked from the Istanbul Strait. Sorry if I was getting mixed up there. Melitopol has fallen. Can you confirm that? Yes, Melitopol has been within Russian hands since yesterday. So that the news is reporting that like it's new news today, but I was on here last night saying that yesterday. So if you want to make sure that you keep up with the Russian news, well, not Russian news, current relevant news, come on here because I'm going to be telling you about this stuff quicker than mainstream news does. Maybe I ought to run my own news company. I don't know. Putin's face looks bloated. Drugs? Maybe. Maybe he's like a lot of our presidential candidates here in the United States, and they're starting to have to pump him up with a lot of drugs during his public appearances because he's not doing well. Hopefully he's not doing well and he'll die of a stroke soon because that bastard needs to get out of here if y'all can agree with me. And if you do, type that up in the chat. I think Russia will lose 50K. Putin will get assassinated, and this will all end. I don't know if Putin will get assassinated because it seems like the oligarchs are so scared of him they've ran out of the country. Like there was a report, I couldn't verify it, so it's not on here, that all of the Russian oligarchs have fled, and they've gone to all kinds of other countries, but they're not in Russia anymore. Ukraine isn't Afghanistan. Yes, but I mean, like, you know, I was just trying to draw some similar comparisons. And what is this here? Hello. We're going to have to put that in Google Translate. It looks like Ukrainian, so we'll put that in Google Translate. Google Translate Ukrainian to English. Let's throw that in the chat in the translator. Hi there, I'm from the United States. Good luck to you, Ukraine. Oh, it's just a message of support for the Ukrainians. I'm glad you're giving them a message of support. There's a lot of Ukrainians who watch this nightly stream. Over there, it's a morning stream for them. But I'm glad you're giving them a message of support. It's a very good thing to support the Ukrainians because they are the ones who are being attacked by a ruthless dictator in a foreign country that really has nothing to do with the Ukraine at this point anymore. China has a long history of all bark, no bite. Yes, they also have a history of falling apart really quickly when put under, like, foreign pressure. So, you know, not that that would happen again, but it might happen again. Ukraine has 40 million population. They ain't going to be a pushover. Yeah, it's almost like, let me think. It's like 1/3 of the Russian population. It's like the U.S. going up against China. And if you have a really dedicated and, like, if you have a really dedicated group of people who just believe in that cause, anything is possible and they can hold off anything. Pakistan just met Putin a few days ago. Yes, they did, but it wasn't really like in a supportive way. I mean, like, while he was there, he was talking about, I'm really just here because I'm trying to stay neutral and we're just trying to get the best deals for Pakistan in terms of trade with any country that'll do trade with us. So it wasn't really like a I support Russia thing. It was more like a I'm just neutral and I'm not really getting involved in this stuff. Kind of like a Swiss move. Russian soldiers didn't even know the deal. They were told training only. I've heard that a lot, and they may have been told that it was training only. Do you think a desperate Putin as a last option would start a global nuclear war? Maybe. I mean, like, I kind of covered that already, but, you know, maybe. And their bite is missing nearly all its teeth. Yes, it is. And they're not as strong as a financial power that we were making them out to be a few years ago. It seems that their financial growth has started to slow, and the American GDP is still trillions of dollars above them. And to fight a war, you have to be economically strong. And America is still economically strong. It's still, I believe, the only superpower in the world at the moment. The Chinese are starting to break the eggshell that they're in, and they're starting to try and emerge as a world superpower, but they're not really there yet because they don't really have the global influence that America has, such as like foreign military bases and a large deal of aircraft carriers and global influence and institutions such as the United Nations and their own military alliance like the U.S. has with NATO. They don't have anything like that, so I don't really think they've gotten to that point yet. And so, yeah, they're missing all their teeth. He should just take eastern part of Ukraine and retreat. I don't think he should take any part of Ukraine. I think he's not, really. I think the worst case scenario is that the Ukrainians will hold, and then they will decide that they can't really keep this up much longer, and then they'll say, we'll recognize Donetsk and Luhansk if y'all leave, and the Russians will agree. I think that'll be their worst case scenario. Let's see, the nuke threat Putin made, there is a chain of command. That's true, and that we've seen before that chain of command has sat there and refused to fire before, back in Soviet times. We don't know if that would happen now, but it may. How long can Ukraine last with limited weapons and not even the brunt of Putin's force pushing yet? I'm 100 for Ukraine, by the way. Putin cannot push 100% of the forces. There's never been a time in history, except for like when a country was about to fall, like Nazi Germany. Hopefully that doesn't get me like stricken or anything right now, but you know, Germany in the 40s. The few times you see like 100% of forces being dedicated to something is when a country is right on the brink of collapse. Like there's no territory left and they're just putting everyone out there to fight. So Russia isn't in that situation. So I don't believe that Russia's ever going to put all their forces out there at one time. I think they have all their forces they can possibly have there right now without overcrowding the battlefield and just leading to and like an unbelievable amount of casualties just to it being overcrowded. So I think at this moment, the Ukrainians will last for several days. And I believe that they only have to last for several more days because then after several days is over, there will probably be some very beneficial talks for the Ukrainians in terms of a ceasefire and an agreement. Putin has cancer and he doesn't care because he only has 6 months. Maybe. I mean, like I've said that before. Maybe the Russians are using conscripts now, but soon they will start using more of their specialized troops. From what we've been told, they are using the VDV and the Spetsnaz right now, and the VDV and the Spetsnaz on multiple occasions in different places have been wiped out very quickly. So, and also on top of that, we've already run around. If you're late to the stream, welcome. Hope you like and subscribe. But we've already been talking about T-90s and T-80 BVMs that have been abandoned around Sumi and Kharkiv and have been destroyed as well. And so they're already pulling out their best. And then we have seen Mi-28s over Kherson. And so they're already deploying their best at this point. On day 4, their best stuff is being seen all over the place. And it's still getting wiped out like the old stuff. So with that being said, I don't think anything's going to change with them pulling out professionals and all that stuff. He is a president without bone spurs. That's true. Russia has had this entirely backfired. Like you suggest, Zelensky has been lifted up into a total badass Putin wishes he would be seen. That's true. I don't know what this is. But we'll leave it for now. NATO did this to Ukraine. You're gone. Yeah, you're gone. Putin is all bark, no bite. He's got some bite. He's invading a country right now. But with the nuclear side of things, yes, I think he might be all bark, all no bite. But I don't really want to say for sure because I said he wouldn't invade Ukraine days ago, and then he did in the middle of my live stream. So that's why this whole thing started. Putin is scared of him. Look up Funker or War Leaks for videos on YouTube. Yes, that's good, but Funker and War Leaks doesn't have everything. I would suggest Combat Footage, the subreddit here called Combat Footage. They will show you a lot of stuff that no one will show you on YouTube or anywhere, like this one. And then all you have to do is throughout the course of the day, hit refresh, and you're generally getting live information from everywhere around the country on the front lines. You can see that they said that some Ukrainian gypsies, I don't know why they're saying they're gypsies, but they stole a Russian IFE. You know, I'm not going to say anything cringe. But AA system engaging near the village of Rozdul. And my process of, like, filtering all this information is I'll pull up the location of the village of Rozdul, and then I'll put a marker up, and I'll put a link to this on the map, and then I'll show it to y'all later on, so that way we can follow all the developments of the day. And I go all the way back till 24 hours ago, and then I start throwing these pins up. So everything is from today. But yeah, I think that's the best place to go find the combat footage if you want to find anything that's happening in Ukraine and where it's happening. Let's see. Putin is scared of him. Look up Funker or War Leaks for videos. You, my man, whoever you are, you're doing this channel. You speak the truth. Keep going. Marine Raider here in Europe right now. Thank you so much, Redneck Engine Performance. If you're from the southeastern United States, I am too. And I'm glad that we have some hillbilly corn liquor boys over there representing the southeastern U.S. So thank you so much. I'm just trying to do my part, and I'm glad you like it. I hope you subscribe, and I hope you join the Discord, because sometimes YouTube deletes my subscribers. And so if you get deleted as my subscriber and you're on my Discord, you'll know when all the streams are happening, and you can hop back on there and resubscribe, so that way you'll be up to date and getting notifications when these nightly streams come on. I feel bad for those young soldiers on both sides, even the Russians. They were tricked into the invasion. They had no idea until it was too late. I kind of touched on that already. Now, world without Ukraine. Don't know who you are, and I don't know what that means, so we'll leave it alone. Zelensky is Alpha Omega Chad for real. Yeah, he is. President Zelensky for Times Person of the Year. I think Zelensky ought to get every single award under the sun that can be given to him for doing what he's done. He's gone above and beyond what a leader is usually expected to do. He's no longer a leader anymore. He's entered the historical level of people like Justinian the Ninth. I believe he was the one who said he would die with Constantinople during the fall of Constantinople. He is up there with King Leonidas. He's up there with all these people who stood with their country till the end. And he's not even dead yet. He may come out of this alive. And if he came out of this alive, he would be even more of a story. I mean, like, he was a guy, a comedian, who started a television studio, that made a show about being the president of Ukraine, and in the process of making a show about him being the president, a fictional president of Ukraine, he spoke such truth to the Ukrainian people that a political party was named after the show that he was on. He ran for president and won by a large margin. He won 77% of the vote and went on to become the president of Ukraine. He's kept up almost all of his promises for the most part in Ukraine, and now he's out there doing this. This guy is just beyond anything. I mean, like, this guy is the main character of the story right now. And I'm all into him. I wish I could go over there and meet the guy because he's a hero. I believe that there is a massive buildup of Russians outside the capital, and the peace meeting is only a distraction to give time to group up. Putin is playing the long con, not good. Maybe true. I won't refute that. That's a pretty solid assessment of what's going on. Putin loses again. True. America X. America X. Okay. I think that's a bot. So we'll hide that one. Do we need Putin on this planet? No. That's very simple. He read my comment. Yay. Yes, I read everyone's comment. No comment goes unanswered at the moment, although it just keeps on seeming like this comment thread just does not end. And I think soon these things are getting so popular that I might not be able to respond to everyone's comments, which kind of makes me sad because I like responding to everyone's comments. It's kind of what I got into streaming this stuff for. Otherwise, I'd just be making normal videos. And I like reading comments and talking to people. So, I mean, like, if this gets big, great, but I love reading comments. Apart from nukes, the veil has been lifted on the Russian military. I have never actually thought of the Russian military as a powerful force. I've always been telling everyone Russia is a regional power. While they were a superpower during the Cold War, they've been reduced to nothing more than a regional power. They got their asses kicked by Chechnya, of all places. I mean, like, when you get your asses kicked by a group of rebels in your own country, that says a lot. And they took a lot of losses, too. I mean, like, it wasn't like just a light tap and they lost. I mean, like, they were losing serious amounts of forces in Chechnya, in that little yellow area down there. And I've always said, I mean, like, the best thing they've done recently, until now, was a little proxy war with Ukraine, where they quickly annexed the Crimea, and another little war where they steamrolled Georgia, which isn't even how do you say it, a comparable power to Russia. And that's the only thing they've done. They're a regional power with a lot of land and a lot of nukes, and that's it. And they rely on the nukes to keep on giving everyone in the world this fake appearance that they're a superpower, but they hardly even have the economy to even be considered a regional power. They're almost just like a failed nation, nearly. So that's my thoughts. War crimes. Yes, there's a lot of war crimes. K-bar sucks. I think you're talking about the K-bar knife. My brother has one of those. I've never been a big fan of collecting knives. I've been a big fan of collecting guns. I own a 1942 Remington 1903. So hopefully that's impressive to y'all if y'all know what that means. Because that's a whole bunch of number designating stuff. Anyways, I'll just say I own a 1903. You know, one of the World War I bolt action rifles that the U.S. used, but it's one that was made in 1942 for some reason. It's a really nice gun. Let's see. Ski. YouTube channel called Soko Mimos has so many videos he uploads them every hour, up-to-date information regarding war videos in Ukraine. If you want to check them out, I may check them out. Thank you for letting me know that. I'll make sure to make a note of that later on and go check that out. Maybe. Funny that we've reached a point again where the Taliban and the U.S. DoD are on the same side. I know, it was a quick twist. They have a love-hating relationship. They're kind of like most people's parents. IKEA, LOL. The Russians do not want to be there. I think that's what that's saying. Ukraine is fighting from their hearts. They are. And I think Russian soldiers don't want to be there, but they are there nonetheless, and so they have to die. Russian military has quality like Chinese property. Yeah, that's true. I think we've already covered that one. Jamaica. Love Ukraine, and we want peace. We all want peace for Ukraine. So, thank you so much for the support to the Ukrainians. Ukraine, America, puppet. Well, goodbye, man. I'm sorry, but you gotta go. Russia, Russia. Oh man, another bot. You gotta go. Putin has to go. Yes, he does. Stalin starved Ukrainians during the Great Ukraine Famine. Yes, he did. And the Russians want to make it look like the Ukrainians and the Russians have always been friends, but every time the Russians have had control over Ukraine, they treat Ukrainians like second and third class citizens. It's bullshit how they act like Ukrainians and Russians are really friends. They're not. And I think Russia just misses having a southern group of Russians they consider inferior to them to beat up on. I think that's what they're missing. I mean, like, they killed the Cossacks, and the Cossacks were native to Ukraine, and they killed them off. The Cossacks only exist as like a rebirth of Ukrainian culture, and that's pitiful. That's terrible. Try to give them water and power. I don't know what that's referencing, but if it's referencing some stuff about the hydroelectric dams down in the south, I guess. LOL, I think they're using their old stuff first. We've kind of covered that. Make sure to join tomorrow's stream, and you'll see that more modern equipment is probably being destroyed tomorrow, because there's been a decent amount today, and it appears that they're having to start to pull that stuff out and bring it out of the reserves. Quick question. How can we make sure besieged Ukrainian trans kids their hormone replacement pills? I don't know if you're like some kind of troll or something, but if I have one more comment like that, I'm probably going to have to remove you. So sorry about that. Putin is dying. He may be. Ukraine be strong. I think they are at the moment. They really are. So I just think supporting them is really good. If you really want to support them, hop on a plane and fly over there. They'll give you a gun and they'll help you defend the country. I've been thinking about that, but due to some issues at the moment, I really can't, which is kind of sad. And also, I don't really know if the U.S. is allowing people to do that. That's another thing that I haven't really heard. Britain's allowing people to do that, but I don't know if America would allow people to do that, because you see, if I went over there and America wasn't allowing me to do that, I'd never be allowed to come back, and that would be a big problem. Taking and I wouldn't be allowed to come back because I'd be put in prison pretty much. So I would have to stay in Ukraine, and if Ukraine lost, then I'd be in a really bad situation, because either I'd go to Russia and be tortured and executed or put in prison or something for fighting for the Ukrainians as a foreign national, or I would be put in prison in America probably for 20 years to 40 for being someone who committed treason, because that's what they probably charged me with. Taking a country is one thing, holding it is another. That's true. Russian military budget isn't small. It's honestly pretty decent. No. Let's pull up military budgets. Military budgets by country. And let me show you what the Russians have. Alright. So, the United States spends $778 billion per year on defense. They spend more than most other countries combined, pretty much more than everyone else combined, nearly. China spends $252 billion. India spends $72.9 billion. Russia spends $61.7 billion. Britain is almost neck and neck with the Russians in terms of spending. The Saudis are not that far behind in terms of spending. Germany isn't that far behind. I mean, like, they're $10 billion behind, but that's not really that far when you could just add $5 billion to that and you're almost neck and neck with the Russians. I mean, like, really any country, really the Russians are not spending a lot on defense, because when you think of military superpowers, do you ever think of Britain or Saudi Arabia as military superpowers? No. Yet they almost have a similar budget to Russia. And so that's why I'm saying that their military budget is actually really small. Is because according to all public information, it really is when you compare it to other countries. I mean, like, Britain, as far as budgeting goes, is almost toe-to-toe with the Russians. And I mean, like, if anyone considers Britain a comparable world superpower to Russia, according to, like, all the hype and stuff, I would be kind of shocked. So we'll leave it at that. I don't know what is. And then we have BR from AK-47. I don't know what that is. Russia is already guilty of genocide against Ukraine. Yes, they are. They've killed about 330 civilians. Say what you want about Afghanistan war, but there was never another 9/11. There was not. And so I think it kind of achieved its objectives, and it appears that that Afghanistan is going to start playing nice on the world stage, even with the Taliban in charge. guys, subscribe to this guy. He knows stuff. Thank you so much, man. I get hate every once in a while from a few people doing these streams. They say that, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an armchair general, a whole bunch of stuff like that. But I'm so thankful that someone from Ukraine, from Dnipro of all places, which is getting kind of close to the front lines, likes what I'm saying and agrees with it. It means a lot to me that people are over there actually think I'm reporting a lot of truthful information, because that's what I'm trying to do. And I thank you so much for the support. Do you think that the U.S. intelligence community has deeply penetrated the Russian high command? The U.S. was sounding the alarm on a Russian invasion months before everyone else. They may have, but I don't really, I can't really speak from a position of confidence when talking about that. Decent for a broken economy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. Also, Zelensky is addressing press conferences in a dirty shirt, so he's on the front consistently. Yes, he is, yeah. I thought you were talking about, for some reason my brain had a warp and I thought you were talking about Lukashenko for a minute. But yeah, he's on the front. Yeah, he's out there doing his part as the leader of a country among the rest of his men. That is something. I mean, like, not even Winston Churchill did that. And, you know, I've considered Winston Churchill up to this point a badass. And now Zelensky's making Winston Churchill just look like an average Joe. Pakistan is the most powerful nation. Beware of Pakistan. Okay, man. What do you see as more likely? Putin gets overthrown or an extension of the conflict into NATO territories? Oh man, you're asking me the real conundrum. Because I can't really say either way. I mean, like, it could really go either way at this point. Either Putin could have like a military junta happen against him and he gets overthrown by Sergei, or oh, by the way, now that I've said that about Sergei, you better start watching out, Sergei, because the bots are going to let Putin know and they're going to be coming for you. But I mean, like, it could go either way at this point. I could see it either escalating into an Article 5 of the NATO Charter, or Putin getting overthrown in some kind of military coup. Ukrainians joined Nazi SS Panzer divisions in World War II. Well, probably because they were being subjugated by the Russians so bad that the Nazis looked like the Weenie Hut Jr.'s version of the Soviets. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't really know what that's supposed to prove. And on top of that, that's like 70 to 80 years ago. So I don't really know what that even really ties into the modern situation. That's like saying white people owned slaves in the South 170 years ago. How does that tie into today? You know, like, that one statement alone without any support requires so many assumptions for it to be relevant in the modern day. It's kind of pointless, just like that one. So I don't really know what that's getting at. I've seen many people say that the Russians sent their inexperienced out first to weaken Ukrainian troops before proceeding with their experienced elite troops for a clean capture of Kyiv. Thoughts? No, I don't think that's what they did. Usually you try and send out the soldiers that'll get the job done the quickest, because although you're sending out inexperienced troops, they lose a lot of equipment and therefore they're losing a lot of money. And wars cost money, and the main thing you're trying to do is make a war cheap. And so if they send out all of these weaker units that are less experienced and they just blow a lot of money, supplies, and manpower for the Russian army, it's not really doing anything for them, you know? So I don't really think that's true, because we're seeing that T-90s are being abandoned and Mi-28s are active in the country. And so it's already suggesting that their best troops are there because the best equipment's there. Russia will reign supreme. You will not. You will be hidden from the channel. Trump 2024. I'm not going to weigh in on that. He was all pro Putin until Putin invades Ukraine, and now he wants to start playing the opposite card. I'm going to leave it at that. Ukraine might pull off the and listen, just because I say that, I don't think I'm anti-Trump. Okay, I don't like Biden either. I don't really like either of them. I feel like we ought to have a leader like Zelensky who steps up and just does the right thing instead of trying to make this political. I mean, like, I get on Fox News and they're talking about Ukraine, but you know how they're talking about Ukraine? They're talking about Ukraine as in, we ought to have Trump back. You know, like, the last thing I want to hear about in a war where hundreds of people are getting killed a day is the political situation in the United States and who should be in charge. This war is about the people of Ukraine. These people are bleeding and dying every day defending their country, and I think the last thing anyone should be talking about over here is political posturing, because that just makes it sound like all of this is superficial and secondary to lowly political squabble in the United States. That's what that makes that sound like. Ukraine might pull off the biggest victory since the Revolutionary War, and it's great. I have to agree, that's pretty true. Russia has more nukes than anyone, pray. That's true, but a lot of them can't be used. America has a lot of nukes, but due to the funding of the nuclear defense program, I don't really think most of them could be used, according to a documentary we watched a while ago. What do you think about the nuclear threats? I kind of covered those already, but I'll cover them again. I'm kind of half and half because Putin's been so unpredictable that they may happen, but at the same time, nuclear annihilation would be a thing that most people try and avoid, even if you have nothing to lose in your head. So I don't know. Just tuning in before bed. Curious if Ukrainian capital still stands. At the moment, it does still stand. The Ukrainians are holding strong in the capital, although it has been besieged. I'll check the combat forum to see if there's any information. And we'll also check the Ukraine forum to see if there's any information. Oh my god! Look at this, y'all! Look at this! This is a Russian logistics convoy. It's marked up with Z's. They're just taking civilian trucks and trying to use them now because their logistical situation is fallen so far apart. You can't make this stuff up. Look, that's a food truck. I don't even know where to go with that. There's dump trucks, food trucks, like aggregate. I don't even know. I mean, just look at that and let's just soak that in for a second. The Russians are fucked. That's all I got to say. I don't like to cuss much, but they're done for if that's the state of their logistics. Oh yeah, let's shut down Google Translate real quick. Oh yeah, wait a minute, I was on Reddit. I'm sorry. Let's see. Ukraine combat. Yeah, oh yeah, we were on Ukraine. Let's go to new. Okay, so Apira can't find any news whether Kyiv has been captured or not. So I believe it's still standing at the moment. And I don't believe it'll fall for many days because so many people are vested in its defense right now at the moment. So let me pop up the chat and I'll try and answer some more questions. Just tuning in from, oh yeah, we already answered that. You love Russia? Well, you'll go to hell. That's how that works. I agree too, but you have to see that video. Those guys are remorseful and had no clue what the orders would be. I mean, like, yeah, I'll give on that statement I made earlier. I'll look into it. Maybe some of them deserve sympathy. Chechens don't, though. I'll say that right now. The Chechens are in this, and they want blood, and so I don't really care about them. I think they ought to be killed. And it's a good thing that their general's already been killed. If he doesn't know who Jocko Willink is, I have my doubts regarding knowing his stuff. Jocko is a leading military mind. Check him out for sure. Thanks for the stream. Well, I don't have to know other people to know what I'm talking about. I mean, like, you can ask the people who've been watching the stream since day one. You know, you can, like, this guy called Jocko can know everything on Earth, but I've gotten almost everything right about the Russian battle plans since the first day. And so, I mean, you know, it'd be nice to know people who kind of know what they're talking about, but I don't necessarily have to know those people as well to know what I'm talking about, you know? I'm just talking from what I think makes sense, and so far it's made sense to the Russians as well because it's been exactly what they're doing. So, you know, that's that. Russia does not have the most nukes. They do, actually. In like terms of just numbers and storage and stuff, they do. Of course, be bold, be brave, and be violent. Just the reason they are fighting is how they are stopping their advance. True. The U.S. invaded Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Almost all Arab countries have differences with them. Israel bombs Palestine and the Gaza Strip every day. Nobody says anything. Double standard. It's not really a double standard because, one, those countries are harboring terrorists, and Ukraine isn't. So it's not really a double standard. I mean, the Russians are trying to make it sound like they are harboring terrorists, but then they really aren't because they're saying that the government is full of Nazis. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, we didn't invade Syria. We kind of just got involved there and we're supporting the Syrian Democratic Forces. And in Libya, we were supporting an opposing group to Gaddafi. And in Iraq, I mean, like, that one was straight up an invasion. Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. But in Afghanistan, we went after Osama bin Laden because he was living in there, and we demanded that Afghanistan expel the terrorists, and they refused because the government was, you know, supporting terrorists, and there was no question there that there were terrorists in Afghanistan, and so that's why we went to Afghanistan. And then in the process, we made terrorists while we were trying to get rid of terrorists, so, you know, that kind of didn't work. But if the USA just dealt with Afghanistan and had not attacked Iraq, it would have done a better job of Afghanistan. I believe that's true, yeah. How about Stalingrad Part 2? I don't know. I think propaganda bots have arrived. Yes, they have. We have, it appears to be a Japanese person here. Welcome to the stream. Ukraine is having a terrible situation, forces Ukraine. Oh no. I'm sorry. We don't have that kind of talk in here. Belarusians posting on Unai, a Ukraine median server, to warn Ukraine of Russian movements. At least 6 possible Mi-38s were videoed heading south from Mogilev, Belarus, towards Ukraine. From Mogilev, south towards Ukraine. They may also be moving them to Gomel. It may just be a repositioning. But I'm not gonna discredit that. That may be what's happening. This is backfiring epically on Putin. Yes, it is. It really is. It's backfiring terribly. Putin is installing the Dominion computerized voting system in Ukraine. I don't know what that is. Is this feed live? Yes, I'm reading all the comments live. Yeah, it's live. Yes, they did, but they weren't Nazis. They just viewed Stalin as a greater evil in terms of Ukraine. Stalin took the crops of Ukrainians and starved millions of them. That's exactly what I said earlier. Thank you, Keith. Cyber attack by Ruski bots. Yes, and I'm clearing them out, and they don't come back after you clear them out, so they just pop up and they're new, and I get rid of them. Allahu Akbar. Okay. I don't really know how that applies to the chat, but we'll leave it, because I'm not trying to, like, crush people's speech. They went protesting in Russia back then. True, yeah. If these talks don't work, boss, I got intel. If you need some, just not leaking it here. Sure, dude. If you want to join the Discord, there's a link below in the description, and you can add my personal Discord, and we can become friends, and you can share the information there. And if you don't want me to share it over stream, I won't. But I will take a listen to it. Freedom and democracy will prevail. Yes, it will. Nazi Putin. I don't know what that means. But I believe you're calling Putin a Nazi, so we'll keep that there. Chill with the spam. Oh, wow, there's a whole bunch more talk. Oh, God. Wow, there's so much. Oh, wow, there's a lot. Oh, my God, how am I supposed to respond to all this? How many people are watching the stream? Jesus. There's like a non-stop stream of people on here. Oh my God. How am I supposed to respond to all you people? There's 3,200 of y'all on here right now. What the hell am I supposed to do? Yeah, I think I need mod assistance now because this is wild. Jesus, welcome everyone to the stream. Oh my God, I cannot believe this, y'all. I mean, like, this is blown up. I've been getting a couple of hundred views for days. Holy shit. I don't even know what to do. The stream was supposed to end by now, but there's 3,000 of y'all watching. Where's my guy who wanted to be the mod? There you are. I'm gonna make you a mod right now. You're a moderator. Please delete the Russian bots. Oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Do you research before you live stream? I did. That's what the map's about. So yeah, I mean, like, this is the map. By the way, everyone, since there's 3,000 of y'all watching, which is a small village, I want y'all to know that all of this has been collected live. This is all color-coded, by the way. The green is the first 2 days, because I hardly did any marking on the map the first 2 days. Yellow is day 3, and red is day 4. So the next time the stream goes live, which will be around 10 p.m. Eastern time, the color will be different. There will be a different color code for the 5th day of fighting, and the front lines will develop and change a little, depending on the information I get throughout the day, but I'm trying to keep it as relevant and clear as possible, so anything that's somewhat questionable in validity and its location is not included on the map. So I don't know what to do right now, because there's just so many of y'all watching. So, I mean, like, the stream is going to end, but oh my god, I mean, like, I didn't know I'd blow up right now, so, thank y'all all so much for watching. It's been a great stream. There's a lot of y'all wanting to be mods. Well, I'll promote a lot of moderators, oh, the blue area around Odessa. Yes, I'll try and answer that right now. The blue area around Odessa is actually a proposed secondary plan. I said they may start to invade Odessa from another naval invasion in the Black Sea, but I have not been very sure about that, and I've been standing by to see if that will become true or not, or if the Russians will just try and push through Mykolaiv and then capture Odessa over land. So I'm not really sure about how that's going to go, but that's what I've been assuming at this moment. I'm going to go. There's just so many of y'all. I don't know what to do. But I'm going to roll. I can't, y'all. I'm absolutely, like, blown away. I started this stream with 110 subscribers. I have 1.1 thousand of y'all now, and there's 3,000 of y'all watching. And I don't even know why it's like this right now. I thought I was just reporting the news to a small group of people, and now this has become such a large group. Make sure to join the Discord. I'll definitely start fleshing out my Discord a lot more. Use slow mode. Is there such a thing? I'm new to the streaming thing, so I don't really know. Oh man. I don't know if the Ghost of Kyiv is still alive, but I'm gonna roll, y'all. I'm sorry. But it's very late for me, and this was only supposed to last so long, and it's gone on 2 hours now. So I'm going to roll. Thank y'all all so much. I hope to see y'all tomorrow on the next night's 10 o'clock stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll start around then. It'll be about 10 to 20 minutes later usually, but it's around that time. I thank y'all all so much for watching, and I will see y'all around. Thank you so much.
Незламні, мов граніт, поплач не дав нікому ще свободи. Хто борець, той здобуває світ. Поплач не дав нікому ще свободи. Хто борець, той здобуває світ. Велику суть для усіх єдину